Chapter 5, Part 1 of the 8 Strokes of the Clock. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Lenny. The 8 Strokes of the Clock by Maurice Leblanc. Chapter 5, Part 1. Therese and Germaine. The weather was so mild at autumn that, on the 12th of October in the morning, several families still lingering in their villas at Étretat had gone down to the beach. The sea, lying between the cliffs and the clouds on the horizon, might have suggested the mountain lakes slumbering in the hollow of the enclosing rocks, were it not for that crispness in the air and those pale, soft, and indefinite colors in the sky which give a special charm to certain days in Normandy. "It's delicious," murmured Hortense. But the next moment she added, "All the same, we did not come here to enjoy this spectacle of nature, or to wonder whether that huge stone needle on our left was really at one time the home of Arsène Lupin." "We came here," said Prince Rénine, "because of the conversation which I overheard a fortnight ago in a dining car between a man and a woman, a conversation of which I was unable to catch a single word. If those two people could have guessed for an instant that it was possible to hear a single word of what they were saying, they would not have spoken, for their conversation was one of extraordinary gravity and importance. But I have very sharp ears, and though I could not follow every sentence, I insist that we may be certain of two things. First, that man and woman, who are brother and sister, have an appointment at 11:45 this morning, the 12th of October, at the spot known as the Trois Mathildes, with a third person, who is married and who wishes at all costs to recover his or her liberty. Secondly, this appointment, at which they will come to a final agreement, is to be followed this evening by a walk along the cliffs, when the third person will bring with him or her the man or woman, I can't definitely say which, whom they want to get rid of. That is the gist of the whole thing. Now, as I know a spot called the Trois Mathildes some way above Étretat, and as this is not an everyday name, we came down yesterday to thwart the plan of these objectionable persons." "What plan?" asked Hortense. "For, after all, it's only your assumption that there's to be a victim, and that the victim is to be flung off the top of the cliffs. You yourself told me that you heard no allusion to a possible murder." "That is so, but I heard some very plain words relating to the marriage of the brother or the sister with the wife or the husband of the third person, which implies the need for a crime." They were sitting on the terrace of the casino, facing the stairs which run down to the beach. They, therefore, overlooked the few privately owned cabins on the shingle, where a party of 4 men were playing bridge, while a group of ladies sat talking and knitting. A short distance away, and nearer to the sea, was another cabin, standing by itself and closed. Half a dozen bare-legged children were paddling in the water. "No," said Hortense, "all this autumnal sweetness and charm fails to attract me. I have so much faith in all your theories that I can't help thinking, in spite of everything, of this dreadful problem. Which of these people yonder is threatened? Death has already selected its victim. Who is it? Is it that young, fair-haired woman, rocking herself and laughing? Is it that tall man over there, smoking his cigar? And which of them has the thought of murder hidden in his heart? All the people we see are quietly enjoying themselves, yet death is prowling among them." "Capital!" said Rénine. "You too are becoming enthusiastic. What did I tell you? The whole of life's an adventure. Nothing but adventure is worthwhile. At the first breath of coming events, there you are, quivering in every nerve. You share in all the tragedies stirring around you, and the feeling of mystery awakens in the depths of your being. See how closely you are observing that couple who have just arrived. You never can tell. That may be the gentleman who proposes to do away with his wife, or perhaps the lady contemplates making away with her husband. The D'Ormeval? Never! A perfectly happy couple. Yesterday, at the hotel, I had a long talk with the wife, and you yourself. Oh, I played a round of golf with Jacques d'Ormeval, who rather fancies himself as an athlete, and I played at dolls with their two charming little girls. The d'Ormeval came up and exchanged a few words with them. Madame d'Ormeval said that her two daughters had gone back to Paris that morning with their governess. Her husband, a great tall fellow with a yellow beard, carrying his blazer over his arm and puffing out his chest under a cellular shirt, complained of the heat. "Have you the key of the cabin, Therese?" he asked his wife, when they had left Rénine and Hortense, and stopped at the top of the stairs a few yards away. "Here it is," said the wife. "Are you going to read your papers?" "Yes, unless we go for a stroll." "I had rather wait till the afternoon. Do you mind? I have a lot of letters to write this morning." "Very well, we'll go on the cliff." Hortense and Rénine exchanged a glance of surprise. Was this suggestion accidental? Or had they before them, contrary to their expectations, the very couple of whom they were in search? Hortense tried to laugh. "My heart is thumping," she said. "Nevertheless, I absolutely refuse to believe in anything so improbable. My husband and I have never had the slightest quarrel," she said to me. "No, it's quite clear that those two get on admirably." "We shall see presently, at the Trois Mathildes, if one of them comes to meet the brother and sister." Monsieur d'Ormeval had gone down the stairs, while his wife stood leaning on the balustrade of the terrace. She had a beautiful, slender, supple figure. Her clear-cut profile was emphasized by a rather too prominent chin when at rest, and, when it was not smiling, the face gave an expression of sadness and suffering. "Have you lost something, Jacques?" she called out to her husband, who was stooping over the shingle. "Yes, the key," he said. "It slipped out of my hand." She went down to him and began to look also. For 2 or 3 minutes, as they sheered off to the right and remained close to the bottom of the undercliff, they were invisible to Hortense and Rénine. Their voices were covered by the noise of a dispute which had arisen among the bridge players. They reappeared almost simultaneously. Madame d'Ormeval slowly climbed a few steps of the stairs, and then stopped and turned her face towards the sea. Her husband had thrown his blazer over his shoulders and was making for the isolated cabin. As he passed the bridge players, they asked him for a decision, pointing to their cards spread out upon the table. But, with a wave of the hand, he refused to give an opinion and walked on, covered the 30 yards which divided them from the cabin, opened the door and went in. Therese d'Ormeval came back to the terrace and remained for 10 minutes sitting on a bench. Then she came out through the casino. Hortense, on leaning forward, saw her entering one of the chalets annexed to the Hôtel Hauville, and a moment later caught sight of her again on the balcony. 11 o'clock, said Rénine. Whoever it is, he or she, or one of the card players, or one of their wives, it won't be long before someone goes to the appointed place. Nevertheless, 20 minutes passed, and 25, and no one stirred. Perhaps Madame d'Ormeval has gone? Hortense suggested anxiously. She is no longer on her balcony. If she is at the Trois Mathildes, said Rénine, we will go and catch her there. He was rising to his feet when a fresh discussion broke out among the bridge players, and one of them exclaimed, Let's put it to d'Ormeval. Very well, said his adversary. I'll accept his decision, if he consents to act as umpire. He was rather huffy just now. They called out, D'Ormeval! D'Ormeval! They then saw that d'Ormeval must have shut the door behind him, which kept him in the half-dark, the cabin being one of the sort that has no window. He's asleep, cried one. Let's wake him up. All four went to the cabin, began by calling to him, and, on receiving no answer, thumped on the door. Hi, d'Ormeval, are you asleep? On the terrace, Serge Chenin suddenly leapt to his feet, with so uneasy an air that Hortense was astonished. He muttered, If only it's not too late. And, when Hortense asked him what he meant, he tore down the steps and started running to the cabin. He reached it just as the bridge players were trying to break in the door. Stop, he ordered. Things must be done in the regular fashion.